In the last video, I talked about the first Arc of DanDaDan, the Turbo Granny arc, and that was a whole lot to get through, but it doesn't stop there. This video will be going into the second arc, which is its Acrobatic Silky arc. Acrobatic Silky arc is 9 chapters, just one more chapter than the Turbo Granny arc. Like the last arc, expect even wackier scenarios and all-around wildness from this story. We're going to be introduced to a brand new character and going to see how said characters integrate into the story and what significant changes will be made. But without further delay, let's discuss the Acrobatic Silky arc.
Attention and go, baby!
The chapter starts out with our boy Okran already dealing with nonsense from his classmates, but this time it's a little different than how it was before. Now Okran is willing to put up with the nonsense. Why, you ask? That's due to the fact that he's made a friend in Momo Ayase. Before, Okran would have just receded into a corner and just accepted how much of a loser he is in these types of situations. But he's got something to look forward to now. Our boy is feeling himself and we love to see it. On the other side of things, Momo is zoned out. Her friends try to make her snap back to reality, but she has no interest in what's going on around her. Her friends gossip about her in front of her face and she does nothing about it. It's here that we see that Momo's pretty miserable in the moment, and that's because she wants to talk about aliens. A far cry from her not believing in them not so long ago, but with what she went through recently, that all changed. We cut back to our boy and he's got ghosts and Momo on the brain, so much so it's driving him crazy. Same with Momo. There's a really good side-by-side panel of the two of them both in distress, just agonizing over the fact that they can't talk to each other currently. It's sweet seeing the two of them act this way over each other, and to let you know now, moments like these are going to happen a lot sooner than you think. The two look for each other and kind of get strung around a bit, not being able to find the other. It's funny because they're so close in proximity yet they're not able to just, meet. It's little things like this that make you go, they're right there, just reach out to them or something. But Yuki Nobutatsu wants to make us wait for us to see these two interact again. He wants to dangle that carrot in front of us before they get their chances. After having zero luck finding Momo, our boy Okaran finds himself on a bench thinking that he really isn't shit out here and that Momo wants nothing to do with him. Au contraire, my dear boy, it's the exact opposite. Meanwhile, Momo is also wondering where Okaran is and she's just annoyed at the fact that she can't find him. One thing to note here is that the despair these two have in the moment must have been something serious because their peripheral vision is straight dog water. Neither of them see each other over from the corner of their eyes. That's tough. Our protags severely overthink their situations and assume the worst in each other. They end up getting closer to each other without noticing, and then this happens. I'm just thinking how much this shit would hurt in all actuality because they should have just walked right into each other hard as hell. But good times are abound due to the fact that our protags have finally met up after all this time. They both end up clearing the air over their misconceptions and share a very tender but awkward moment. Before either of them are able to engage in a proper conversation, Momo's friends spot the two of them and they believe they kissed. In true fashion, the two of them both deny what went down and start clowning each other. The two of them basically tell each other to fuck off and Okaran goes to the bathroom. He immediately feels guilty over what he said because he knew for a fact he loves talking to Momo. But he makes a very, very, very shocking discovery. My man's nuts are gone. Also in true high school fashion, girls are out here gossiping. All the girls are in Momo's face like TMZ reporters outside a celebrity's house asking for the juice. Momo's not beating the Okaran who's her boyfriend allegations, and speaking of Okaran, here he is coming to her with a dilemma on deck. Well, 2 dilemmas.
These nuts!
The girl's still gossiping there as Momo's losing her mind over this. She tries to save face shooing Okaran away, but he's not for the petty games today. He really needs to speak to her, but she's trying not to give him the time of day. Okaran's really trying to get her attention, even laying it on thick saying that he always wanted to speak to her. The peanut gallery are still delivering their much wanted commentary. Momo's still sticking to her guns and tells Okaran to get lost. Even her friend tells her that she's being too harsh on him, and then Okaran hits her with this line. He then walks away from her. Okaran still wonders about Momo until he stumbles across Momo in a wig. Momo in a wig tells him that she's sorry, and Okaran is caught off guard because she's putting that charm on him. Momo, feeling like shit, and rightfully so, starts mulling over how she treated Okaran. But then Momo spots Momo in a wig. Alright, I'll stop. Momo spots Okaran and the girl cheesing it up, and she starts to feel this wonderful feeling called jealousy. Momo walks right past them, and the girl makes fun of her and calls her a nerd. We see how shitty of a person this girl is, and in true Momo fashion, she responds to disrespect by dumping a wash basin on the girl's dome. And now we have a name for the girl. This is Ira. She's gonna be really important this arc, and she had quite the introduction. Momo, after a job well done, approaches Okaran and tells him that they're walking home together. Even Momo isn't afraid of being a little petty right back to Ira. Usually she isn't one to take disrespect, but jealousy will make you do some things to the person you like. She apologizes to Okran for being a dickhead, and he accepts her apology and is really pleased they're able to move past this. Now this gives Okran the opportunity to tell Momo what's really going on with him. He tells her that his nuts are gone, and Momo, being the good friend that she is, responds in a way only she can, by laughing at our boy's misfortune. I'm sure the people in a situation like this would be concerned or see if things can be fixed, but not Momo. She's dying at Okran's expense. Seiko grills Okran about his nuts being gone, and she decides to inspect him. It's here we find out that Okran has something inside of him causing an issue. Okran is prepped for a special procedure, getting whacked in the head with a fan. Seiko hits Okran more, but there's a reason for this. She asks Momo if she sees anything, to which she responds that she can. When hit, Okran's aura turns blue, and Seiko devises a plan for Momo to snatch the aura right out of him. Seiko gives him a good whack yet again, and Momo takes out his aura. Momo, thinking she messed up, believes it ran off somewhere, but not quite. They both observe the doll in front of them, and it takes off. Momo, in hot pursuit of the doll, senses the aura within the walls and catches it. She opens the door and sees the doll having a good old-fashioned tantrum. She tries to make sense of what this doll could be, and Seiko tells her straight up that it's Turbo Granny. Momo thought she clapped up Turbo Granny, but Granny tells him that they didn't really beat her. She tells us as soon as she got lit ablaze by Momo in the last arc, she got an astral form and pretty much just sat in Okran's body. She was dead to rights, but she's just resting in his body until her spiritual power comes back to seek revenge. Momo and Turbo Granny go back and forth on who's really gonna beat who, but Okran wants to get back to the task at hand, and that's getting his nuts back. Turbo Granny explains that if they do end up killing her, then Okran will never get his balls back. So our main characters are pretty backed into a corner with this. She tells Okran to outright murder them to get his nuts back. But then something magical happens. Okran managed to transform without the usage of Turbo Granny, to the shock of everyone, even Turbo Granny. Seiko brings up the fact that the paper fan takes evil spirits out of the body and only their consciousness remains. So Okran has her spiritual power, but her mind is trapped within the doll, and Seiko's the only one that can put it back to normal. A little thing here is the fact that as Seiko's explaining this, Turbo Granny is sweating throughout the entire explanation. It's really funny. Momo tries to cut Turbo Granny a deal by saying that if she gives Okran his nuts back, then they'll give her her powers back. Only thing is that we have yet another issue at hand. Turbo Granny lost his nuts. Turbo Granny tells us that Okran's nuts are not covered in the spirit energy membrane, and they look like gold balls, so our wonderful pro tag's on a scavenger hunt for them. If DanDaDan wasn't weird before, then it's trying to beat its record with this. If there's an absurdity meter, it's beating it over the head with a hammer and lighting it on fire. Turbo Granny enlightens the gang and tells them that both spirits and yokai are drawn to the energy of Okran's balls, and they want the source of that power, and the whole reason why I attack people in the first place is to gain said life force. And with this info, Turbo Granny gets stomped out for her troubles. The gang report back to Seiko with no luck of finding the nuts, and she says that she'll ask an acquaintance of hers to see if they have any intel on it. Can you imagine the setup for that question? Hey, I'm trying to find the whereabouts of this high school kid's nuts. Got any leads? Okran returns back to school and gets hit with nosy-ass people asking him if he and Momo are an item, to which he says, no. One of the guys says that she's cute, and this is a revelation to Okran. It never once crossed his mind that Momo could be considered attractive, and his reasoning is that he was so elated to have a friend that he didn't even think of it. But it's really wholesome, it isn't him being aloof or dense. Then this dude says this awful rumor about her to Okran, and he presses this man instantly. Wasted no time putting the fear of God into him, and he reverts back to himself after the dude pleaded that he wasn't the one who said it. Okran goes to his seat to mind his business, but that's not so simple. Turbo Granny makes a surprise appearance and Okran dashes out the room. She tells Okran that Seiko let her out and she wants to strike up another bargain. She wants Okran to let her back in his body and she'll be on her merry way. Okran sees the finesse coming a mile away and denies the deal. Momo pops up, and just as Okran is about to tell her that Turbo Granny is there, he begins to take in her appearance. Okran is finally seeing her as more than just his friend, but as a woman he can be attracted to. It's pretty amusing seeing him in this sort of way, just geeking over Momo like that. You can know we're planting more seeds of this relationship he's got going on with these two characters. Anyway, Okran, feeling overwhelmed with all this emotion, sprints away from Momo with her on the chase. We cut back to Momo in her classroom and she's mulling over the thought of Okran. She doesn't like the fact that he's avoiding her, but her friend informs of Okran dealing with the guy talking about the rumors that were spread, which makes her blush a little bit. Once again, planting more seeds with their progression. But we're actually going to shift gears. We're going to see what's going on with Ira. She goes over how perfect she is and how much attention she gets from people. But here's the catch. She notices that Momo has powers, and that she was the one who spread the rumors. Ira believes that she's been gifted because of how great she is. Ira then finds a golden ball. Is it Okuran's nuts? What nefarious schemes does she have in store? Whatever is she gonna do?
Next time on Dragon Ball.
Well, I got the picture.
Chapter 13 starts out with something hitting Ira on her head as a train whizzes by. She's caught off guard by this, but then notices the golden ball. She pockets the ball and then we cut back to the present. Her cronies have gathered items that she's requested, and it consists of a cross and this magical book. And her reasoning for this is because she's beautiful. And that's her sole reason for saving the world. A humble one this character is. Her friends tell her that she's not been her normal self, but she ignores this and claims to see a woman in a red one-piece suit, but her friends can't see it. She ducks behind the wall thinking that Momo's familiar might be onto them. After other classmates rightfully clown Ira for being a weirdo, we jump back to our favorite duo. Momo's pissed that Okuran won't look at her, and he plays it off like he's guarding Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny relays some more information to the two about seeing a sketchy looking woman, which is interesting because Ira claimed the same thing. Okuran is of the belief that someone may have just picked up the golden ball because they just look appealing to the eye, but Turbo Granny interjects and says that if a human were to pick them up, then they can awaken their spiritual powers and start to see spirits, which can open them up to grave danger. Momo asks who this woman could be, but all Turbo Granny tells them is that she can show them after school. Meanwhile, Ira is still fixated on Momo, wondering if she can even beat her and the familiar she has. The bell rings and Momo along with Okuran are on the search for the ball, but they get interrupted by Ira. Ira asks to speak with Momo in private and Momo agrees, not wanting to start any problems. Okuran and Momo split up and Turbo Granny says to him, "That's her." Momo gets taken to a secluded area and Ira's friends get the drop on her and wrestle her to the ground, binding her wrists. Ira mounts her and attempts to exorcise Momo. Momo uses her powers and gets rid of the girls. Seeing her plan go up in smoke, Ira uses the last thing in her arsenal, and that's the golden ball. The two have a back and forth on whether or not it's Okuran's nuts or holy ball. Alright, pause for a second. I realize I've said the word nuts or balls a lot more times than I think in my whole life. And the sad thing is I know for a fact I'm going to keep saying it more. This series doesn't make it any easier on your boy. Okuran comes dashing in with some news. Ira is not the eerie woman, but she's what the eerie woman is after. The eerie woman says to Ira that she's her mom. Ira believes this to be the familiar and Okuran transforms. He sprints at the woman but she evades him. Still freshly depressed, he goes on the offensive, but the woman is hitting those smooth tech rolls and chomps down on Okuran. Momo, with her hand still bound, can't use her abilities to its fullest capabilities. The eerie woman kicks Momo and sends her flying. She speaks to Ira and tells her that she's waited over a decade to meet her. The woman reiterates that she's still her mom and recalls some old memories of her calling her that. Momo pops back up ready to fight, and Ira is shocked that Momo even fights stuff like this. Turbo Granny, looking adorable, did a quick Google search and says that what they're fighting is called Acrobatic Silky. I just love the fact that Turbo Granny legit had to Google what they were even fighting, and the reasoning behind it is that she doesn't even pay attention to the small fry. A pretty clever cover up for her being a yokai and not knowing. Ira does her shtick yet again and gets eaten. Acrobatic Silky blames Momo for apparently turning her into a naughty girl. She didn't need any help on that end though. Turbo Granny refuses to aid Momo and she gets snatched up. Acrobatic Silky explains her whip is able to destroy anything that she set her sights to and grabs everything and throws it around. Acrobatic Silky is dogging up Momo, but she never yields. Momo's constitution, as you'll see throughout the manga, is just unmatched. She will take absolute punishment like you see here, but her spirit doesn't break and her mind never wavers. She just takes the beating but is able to think of something later on. Acrobatic Silky eats Momo too, but Turbo Granny tells them to cough him up. Silky doesn't know who she is, and Turbo Granny talks down to her some more. She tells her that she ate some of her own hair and burst into flames. Apparently, the cross Ira held onto was a lighter, and they set her on fire from the inside. Those little rascals had a plan the whole time, and now they're prepared for the real fight. Acrobatic Silky chases after Momo and Okuran, and we get some good old-fashioned running action from them. It's just gold every time I see it. Our protags are dipping and dodging Silky and it agitates her. Silky talks to a befallen Ira and is so deeply infatuated with her that she wants to be a part of her forever, but she can't move. Momo shows that Silky's hair is all caught up and she can't move. Alright, now I'm gonna gush over this panel here. When I read this, I always thought that these two stanced up like this go so hard. I don't even think it was meant to look as cool as it did, seeing as it didn't get a full page spread, but it's such a nice visual. I think it's Momo's hands being behind her back that completes this pose. But back to the story. Afro Silky is caught in an extreme game of Twister, but she's freeing herself. Momo grabs a hold of Silky's gorgeous quads to hold her in place. Momo angrily tells Okarun to beat her up, and Okarun's like, well, I don't know how. And she tells him to kick her, to which he replies, like I'm playing soccer? This line was a lot funnier to me than it's supposed to be, probably because Momo's getting angry at him for stalling. Momo's grip on Silky's legs gives way, but Okarun comes through with the E-Honda headbutt. When Yukinobu Tatsu wants to cook with the art, he always delivers. He makes Okarun look like $1,000,000 time and time again, and this spread attests to that. You get the force of the sheer impact this move has and the speed it took to get there. It's an amazing spread. So Acro Silky is rocked by this move. Okarun feels like he's about to pop, and we beat the baddie, right? Well, not exactly. The gang retrieve Okarun's ball back, but Ira is pronounced dead.
Stench.
Turbo Granny tells us flat out that if a regular person gets eaten by a yokai, they die. Nothing more, nothing less. Momo tries to pull a Sakura and massages Ira's actual heart. Give her props for her creativity there. The two keep trying to bring her back, but nothing they do is working. They ask Turbo Granny for help, but she couldn't be bothered. Acro Silky awakens, and our protagonists are ready to fight once again, but Silky is willing to give her aura to Ira in hopes of giving her life back. Momo distrusts her, thinking it's a trick, and while it's good that she's keeping herself on her toes, Acro Silky means it. Silky even tears her own jaw open to prevent her from eating anything. She even tells them to bash her head in with the beam she has in her hand if they still don't think she can be trusted, but Turbo Granny claims that what she's saying is the truth. Everyone's still on their toes, but Momo asks Silky how to make the aura link work. She grabs onto the aura and a flurry of visions bursts through. Now the story is set on this working girl. She takes her payment and walks to her door. Her eyes are very downtrodden, but she stands before a door and a child runs out to hug her. The child smiles at her and she smiles right back. The two embrace as they share a meal. The mother tries other jobs while also continuing to be a working girl. She practices ballet with her child when she gets home. The mother spots a wonderful dress and she pays for it with the money she saved over time. The mother returns home and these intruders force themselves into her home and attack her. They destroy the apartment and take her child away. The mother pleads for them to release her child, but they take her money and leave her in the apartment. She sprints outside in the rain, attempting to catch them. She falls to the ground, and an image of her daughter embracing her envelops her mind. The mother stands atop this rooftop as she remembers the memories spent with her child as she begins to dance. She moves with such elegance and grace and jumps off the roof, thanking her daughter. A woman stands in the crowd. Her memory is hazy, and she believes she's lost something but can't remember. A child tugs on her dress and calls her mommy. The girl realizes that isn't her mother, but her father comes in and retrieves her. The child asks where she went, and all the father can say is that she won't be back for a long time. The father tells the child that they have to stay strong for whenever she'll return. The girl waves back at the woman, and the woman slowly pieces together her memory. She remembers that she was indeed Ira's mother, and that she has to protect her always. There's absolutely nothing that could have prepared me for how these two chapters could have gone. DanDaDan's tone has consistently stayed with the absurd and comedic, but then it has such a heartbreaking flashback. A tale of a struggling mother trying to provide for her daughter, only for it to end in tragedy. This plays to Yukinobu Tatsu's strengths as a writer. How he's able to give you such a grounded story amidst all of what's happening currently in the arc to make you see a story that will shock and possibly upset you due to the subject matter. I was blown away at how little of a time frame he managed to make you care about characters that barely spoke and just visually told you what was happening. It's so much that a strong character like Momo is showing an emotion we don't ever see from her. Momo, having seen all of this unfold, cries. Okarun asks her if something happened to her and prepares to fight the woman, but Momo pleads for him to stop. Ira is brought back to life and the woman crumbles apart. She tells Ira that she wanted to protect her but caused the exact opposite to happen. How she's a monster not in control over her emotions. Momo asks why this is happening, and Turbo Granny explains that without an aura, you perish, and how due to her having regrets in the living world, she can't reach Nirvana. Turbo Granny adds that she'll be erased. She's extremely cruel with how she refers to the woman. Momo questions whether or not something can be done, but there simply isn't. We delve deeper into the woman's regrets, how she wished to get her daughter better clothes, or how she wished to have played with her more, and how she would have been better off not having been her mother. She apologizes for all of it, but Ira embraces her and tells her mother that she loves her. We then get to see some wonderful spreads of the two of them enjoying their time together. Ira claims that she was the happiest she's ever been with her around, and she wishes for her to go off to a kinder world. And that concludes the Acrobatic Silky arc. That arc ended on a much heavier note than I thought it would have. This arc delivers on the comedy and action, but surprisingly, ends off on something so oddly beautiful that it doesn't even feel like it's a part of the same series. And I mean that in a very positive way, because there are times when series are so tonally different that it can be a negative to it, but not with DanDaDan. In its second arc, they've built up on the rules of the world and the attachment some spirits may have to the past world. DanDaDan is firing off on all cylinders, and the arcs from here on out get that much better and better. But let me know how you guys feel. You enjoy this little series I'm doing covering DanDaDan? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll be seeing you all next time.